Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is probably the fifth broadcast, something like that. We're down in Orlando, Florida at the IACIS training event for 2024. You've heard me talk this thing up. If you've missed the other episodes today alone, I want to let you know why we're here. We're trying to promote some of the best, in my opinion, some of the best training in digital investigations that's just available on the planet. And you guys do it once a year.
That's correct.
So you have to get down for this. Obviously, it's too late this year. If you missed out, sorry. There's next year in 2025. Just head over to IACIS.com, and you're going to see some of the stuff that's going to be coming up. And make sure you keep your eye on it for all the events. And if you guys caught the live I did last hour, we were kind of talking through some of the different courses and the wide range, just the depth of knowledge that's being shared here at this event is amazing. It's just amazing. I forgot to tell you who's sitting right here. You guys probably know him from other episodes that we've had a lot of fun on in the past. I love it and Bren didn't feed me any good information this time.
No, he didn't. I'm glad.
Gene, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming back. And he's not that mad at us because he's come back 2 other times from that first one.
This will be my third. That's right.
Yeah. So
I'm going to bore you with old stories. I'm told I'm good at that.
So you were just telling me before we went live that you got in as president yet again.
That's correct. I'll be serving the 2024-2025 year of my term, which is the last year of my currently elected term.
Yeah.
I'll be serving in the role as president during that time,
Okay.
unless I break something and they decide to bump me out on my head. I would have to run for re-election in December if I were to decide to go for another term on the board, but that decision's not been made. So
okay. So so you don't know if you're going to run again.
not sure yet.
Yeah.
Not sure. Got some personal things going on in my life, and just trying to kind of take it right now, one day at a time, so to speak. I'll make a decision in December. Part of me, I love this place. I love this organization. This organization means a tremendous amount to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be a very hard decision to say no, not to run again.
Right.
But it's one of those things where you kind of got to, at some point, you kind of got to step away. But, I don't want to make this sound like a campaign or anything. So I got to be really careful here. But I will tell you, for some of your listeners, you wonder, well, how does the board work? So when somebody runs for the board, they actually, to serve on the board of directors, they actually, they run for a 3-year term. During each year during that 3-year term, the board then internally decides who's going to fit in what role. And so it's possible to go from role to role to role, or if you want longevity in a particular area, the board can vote to keep you in at that in a field. But when we sit down and have those votes, it's not like, okay, I was president last year, so therefore I'm automatically president this year. It doesn't work that way. The board sits down and decides, and they say, okay, it's doing a good job. Is there somebody who can do it better? Is there a different direction? Stuff like that. So
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Now, I remember, I think it was it last year that you were running, or when was it? Because you were on.
No, I'm actually just concluding my middle year of my 3-year term.
Okay, so it was probably the first time you were on with us. Then is when you went through the
yes,
election.
I think so.
Because I remember we couldn't talk about it.
Yes, that's right.
We couldn't talk about it.
Exactly. We couldn't talk about it because we didn't want to. I don't want to do anything that would make it look like because we actually have a policy about campaigning. We don't want that at all. And I would feel terrible.
I think it's a great policy.
I
think it's a great policy.
When you got people volunteering their time and energy to come in and do this, the last thing you want to get is a campaign where somebody's slinging mud at the other one because of this to try to get, and it's just not necessary. And so, we appreciate all the volunteers that come out and do the work. And it's a lot of work to serve on the board. It really is. But it's a lot of work to serve down here on the training committee and develop material and write papers all year long. So we don't work any harder than anyone else, but it's still a lot of work for somebody that's volunteering their time.
And I'm amazed. Every year I've come down here. This is my 3rd year in a row being down here. Every year I come and I look around and from an outsider looking in, and we were talking about this before we went live, it looks like a well-oiled machine to me. I mean, it runs, everything's smooth. The students are coming in, out on time. They're happy. Oh, man, I hope he didn't break his phone. Anyway, he just dropped it. Yeah. And everything's running so smooth. Everybody's, boom, coming out. That was a great session. Those students will come up and I'll ask them, how'd that one go? How's that going?
Yeah.
And they love it.
It's been a long-running joke amongst a lot of us that once the train leaves the station on Monday morning, it's off and running. There's no stopping it.
Right.
So if there's something does go wrong, you have to fix on the fly, and it's a very polished product that's out. We've been doing it for so many years. Mm-hmm. When we change hotels, like when we came to the Carib here, we had a couple rough years to get started because the hotel's getting to know us and we're getting to know the hotel,
right?
Where we stage stuff. But after we're here for a while, everything just moves. We know who the contacts are. The training committee is amazing. They've got everything down to a science. Mm-hmm. They got who's going to instruct it. All the books are in and done. Each classroom has multiple instructors on it. So you have a primary speaker. If it's a long class, like our FAT class and our NTFS classes, those are very long classes. They run 6 to 8 hours, which is one topic all day. Well, students can't listen to one person talk all day. I mean, they can, but you tend to lose them. It doesn't matter how good of an instructor you are. You can lose them. So it's good. We change it up a little bit with different instructors. So one instructor will take one portion of the topic and the other one will lead the practicals, and or vice versa. Or one instructor does all the instruction and the other one does all the practicals, which is the way I've done it with the FAT class, especially when we're teaching overseas. So, it's just a smooth operating machine. At the end of the day, all the staff meets and they go through the whole course of the day. What went good? What went bad? Do we have any problems we need to work out? Whatever. And then if there's a major problem, like laptops start doing updates or we need a file on a computer, everybody stays in there until it's fixed and it's
Holy
done.
Cow.
But it's knock on wood, everything's gone very, very smoothly this year. I've been very happy.
Yeah.
So
that'd be a lot to transfer all those files over.
Well, we got a server that we can go around, but each you got to remember too, each row of students has a row coach.
Yeah.
So we have. So I didn't mention this. It may have been mentioned in your previous podcast. This is the largest event we have to date. We have 780 students.
Really? I was guessing at numbers. I was way off.
780 students that are here throughout the course of the 2 weeks. So that includes our week 1 classes that are going home and then the week 2 classes that are still yet to come in. We're at 153 staff members down here alone that are just teaching classes and so on. So the basic class this year, we had a lot of last minute cancellations. So the BCFE class is at 313, I believe were the numbers, 313 students.
Wow.
We normally are at 324. But the last minute cancellations, unfortunately, you can't backfill them too fast or fast enough. So, we got the staff in there to cover those, to cover each series of 6 or 8 students. So if you're talking about, okay, everybody, here's a thumb drive or here's the server where the file's at, and each one does their own row, and it's done, and it doesn't take long. If it's like putting a file on a computer or something like that, it's not bad. But sometimes you can fix it with just instruction from the front. Okay, everybody go to the file server and download this or that. So I have not been in that room during instruction this year, so I'm not quite sure what techniques they're using for pushing out updates and stuff like that. But my understanding is it's run very, very smooth, and we haven't had much issue at all.
Because it's a massive room. It is. If you haven't watched any of the other episodes, and this is the first one you're watching since we've been broadcasting down here, how long, if you had to guess, in yards from that end, which I got to lean way down, all the way to that end, which I'm pointing way down, would you say a football field probably? If not bigger?
It's bigger.
Yeah.
I would say a football field, including the end zones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easy.
That's 120 yards. I was going to say maybe 150 at first, but now that you mention it, it's probably a football field now.
Man,
I wish I knew the square footage of the room, but this room fits us perfectly.
Yeah.
For what we're trying to do, we got all set up. We got our equipment with the projectors in there. It fits us perfectly for what we do. And then we've got our breakout rooms down. We got 8 breakout rooms down here for the specialized courses, teaching our Cypher class, the OSINT class, the RAM class, and the MAC classes down there. And there's a couple others that are farther up. I'm forgetting them off the top of my head. But then at the far end, which you can't see, which feels like a country mile long.
It does. It's like way
down there. We've got 8 more rooms down there, but 7 of them are used right now. And we have our mobile forensics classes down there, and we have some vendor courses that are down there. So we got Celebrite's partnered with us, and they're doing their course down there. Spider Forensics is doing their course down there. And then we had our lab management class down there as well.
So I talked to a couple students that were in that class. Yeah. No, very good stuff.
That's great. I'm glad you're interviewing some of the students, because I've heard from a couple people that we've got some really nice compliments and quotes from students. So I'm excited to get that stuff out in the marketing material.
I haven't heard one bad thing. Not one.
Yeah.
Not one.
I know when I went through this course in 2007.
Oh, we went through the same year.
That's right. We did. I keep forgetting that. Yeah. But you remember that room at the Sheridan?
Yeah.
You walked in that room, and I think I keep wanting to say 156 was the number we had.
Huge.
Oh, I walked in there, and it was just like, wow, this is amazing. You walk into the back of this room now, and it's like, oh,
it's
my goodness,
3 times roughly.
Yeah,
roughly.
Yeah, exactly. At least twice.
Yeah.
But it's pretty amazing. It's I'm the face of the organization, so it's nice. I get to hear all the nice things, and sometimes I get credit where it's not due. But we have a ton of volunteers here that just rock it. They rock it, and we could not do this without them.
Yeah, I was talking to some of the row coaches earlier, and actually, when you first walked up before we went live, I was talking to one of your students.
Yep.
She's actually a professor at I'm going to get this wrong. One of the Dakotas. Universities, and she's like, I've never been down here. This training is amazing. So very high props.
I don't know who the student was, but apparently there was somebody that was here in the BCFE course. They've been doing forensics for 20 years, and they told one of the instructors, I cannot believe I've never been to this class.
Yeah,
this class is the bomb or amazing or whatever she said.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's amazing that we're still reaching out and we're getting, even seasoned examiners that are coming down here because, wow. And there's been some discussion about taking basic out of the name because, some people think, I don't need it. It's too basic. But we teach, in my opinion, we teach more material than most college level courses that go for 4 years.
I agree.
You sat through the class from learning how to count in hex, understanding what hex looks like, how does hex get created from binary, to disk structures. What's a disk structure? What's a partition table? What's unallocated partition space on a hard drive? What's a boot record? What's a volume boot record? All that stuff. And I actually had talked a number of years ago to a gal that I worked with who had a master's degree in forensic. And she told me, she said, they never looked at hex on the disk. They never once looked at the data in hex on a disk. And I'm like, how is that even possible?
I know.
But I'm sure that's been quite a while ago. And I know that a lot of the college programs have really come a long way. And the one thing where the college programs are really beneficial is the Python scripting and the coding, because as we get more and more and the digital age grows, you have a scripting becomes a key part, especially if you end up getting into incident response or something like that. You need to kind of understand what code is, what it looks like, and how to maybe read or at least understand the basics, like what's a function, what's this, and so we have now got a scripting class for that purpose, so that people can kind of understand. It's not going to be as in depth as a college course. It's a week long. Sure. But it's still going to provide them with a lot of really good information that will help them understand. I'm not a coder, but I really got to enjoy it. I was taking it was a free class called scripting. Was it called Scripting for Beginners or something like that? It was a Python class. Python for Everyone's what it was called.
Oh, okay.
And it was really well done. It was a professor out of somewhere in Chicago area. Everything was done online. And I had a blast with it. It was fun. We just did a bunch of functions, the whole hello world function, hello world, and basically tell it echo hello world like we did back in the old basic days, back when I was in high school.
Line 10,
I'm dating myself when basic computer programming was basic.
Right.
But it's a neat thing. So we're growing, we're constantly growing all the time. And, we're growing this event. We've probably pretty close to peaked out here, just for a number of reasons. We get much bigger and we're going to need more floor space. And I think the hotel's comfortable with us at the size we're at right now. Yeah. And this is perfect for us.
Yeah.
We tried. We can actually teach 350 students in that class. We did it our very first year here.
Oh, wow.
And it was a lot. And even the training committee was like, okay, that was almost a little too much because we were having a hard time staying on top of it. So, we found that sweet spot of 324, 325 right in there. And it's funny how we found that sweet spot. And I can be corrected if the training staff is listening to this, but I believe we kind of found that sweet spot because when COVID came along, we ended up taking the two far end rooms and taking the expandable walls out, or the curtain walls out, and we took over the entire main Caribbean ballroom, and then we separated each student, so one student's got the 8-foot table, so there was a distance between each student because of COVID.
Yeah.
And when we do that, based on the setup, we could get exactly 324 students.
Oh, no kidding.
And it seems to work. It's worked really well. We've actually, COVID's kind of over, but we kept that spacing because it allows the students a lot of space on each side to set their books out, to have their equipment out, stuff like that. So, but if we were to shrink it back down and put students next to each other, we could drop in two more classes over there. So,
no kidding.
We might do that at some time. Maybe not. I don't know. Right now, it works the way it is.
Yeah. And one of the compliments that I heard, I think it was from one of your staff, was actually that in one of the OSINT class, you booked out. I forget how many people she said were in there. Anyway, whatever the percentage was, whatever the number, I think it was 28 or 26 that was in that class. And she goes, out of that, there were
24, I think it was.
Okay.
Or no, maybe it was 26.
And then she said, out of that, I think 24 was the number that had never been a part of the organization before.
Wow, that's great.
And they were all now coming in because OSINT, you guys have expanded away from just obviously computer. You have to, and now you're opening those new avenues.
Well, years ago, when I first came into the organization, which was the same year you did, we were law enforcement only. If you were not law enforcement, you could not get in. And it was in 2010, 2011 was when some members were really pushing. We need to be opened up to just not law. There's because back then the colleges were starting to crank out more people.
Yeah.
And so it was like, we need to really kind of move away from this. You have to be law enforcement only. Mm-hmm. And I had actually talked to a gentleman that was an instructor at the NCFI, which is the U.S. Secret Services deal.
Hoover, Alabama.
Yep, Hoover, Alabama. And he said, I think the fact that you guys are only allowing law enforcement in, you're hurting your brand. And it was like, because I was against it at first. I wanted to stay law enforcement. I think there was a lot of reasons for it. My biggest concern at that time was that non-law enforcement aren't going to have the passion to come back and teach. Mm-hmm. And so, but I've been proven wrong. We've got some really dedicated non-law enforcement volunteers that have just been amazing. Yep. And it's been great. So it's allowed us to grow. So now that we're teaching non-law enforcement, we now have companies. I believe Deloitte. I believe it was TracePoint that's now owned by Booz Allen. Had people come here last year for our Cypher class. So Cypher is the computer forensic incident response class. That's what I do for a living now, is computer forensic incident response. And we have a number of corporate companies that are sending their students down here for those courses. And now we've just developed an e-Cypher for Enterprise Cypher, which builds on top of that 2-week class.
No kidding.
Starting next week, the e-Cypher class kicks off.
Okay.
It's brand new, rolled out for next week. So we're excited to see how that turns out as well.
And that starts on Monday then?
That one starts Monday. Yeah, it'll be our maiden voyage on that one.
Nice.
Rob Blader, Tyson Beal, and the Cypher instructors are all going to kind of rotate in and out of that class. So it's going to be neat. I'm excited for it because it's a very popular class. That class is kind of like the MAC class. It sells out very quickly. And to hear that the OSINT class not only sold out, it oversold, I was super excited about that too, because OSINT's a cool class.
It is, and there's a lot of demand for it. And I actually knew a couple, one of the people that were in there, I had met at an OSINT conference, and I see her at this conference. I'm, what are you doing here? And she's like, I heard about this class, I had to come take it. So awesome.
That's great.
You're getting into, it's all technology, right? They all have to learn to proper handle the evidence and making sure they're getting the information the correct way.
Technology is growing, and what do they say? Every 7 years, technology doubles. And
is it that much?
I think that's what they say. The technology literally doubles in every 7 years. I don't quote me on that. That's a Geneism if it's wrong. But you can look and see where we were. I mean, I remember in the 90s, I was a contractor in the 90s, and I remember getting my first cell phone, a big old bag phone. I thought I was the coolest guy in town. So I got me a bag phone for my contracting business. And then flip phones came out, and it's like, wow, these are really tiny. This actually works. And then now it's smartphones.
Yeah.
And now smartphones are more powerful than most computers we had back in the 90s.
Yep.
And and the information that's being tracked on phones now is so massive that you can, if depending on how the settings are on the phones, from GPS stuff to metadata that's embedded in photographs that you take. I mean, there's our vendors who are amazing, by the way. Thank you to our vendors for coming out and supporting us the way they have. We can't do this event without the vendors. They're massive. We got a ton of vendors that come out and they display their wares. Many of these vendors give away hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment and licensing, temporary licensing, some full licenses to both the staff and the students, and they do raffles, and it's just amazing what they do here for us. But we've got vendors now that have programs that get in and pull the metadata out of the phone that tracks. Okay, this is what we've got. This is where we're at. And there's another one. I haven't seen them here this year. I don't even remember the name of it, but where it'll search on social media and search across social media to look and find out if there's any pictures that have been posted from a particular user account, and find out whether or not that person's posting pictures that was in the vicinity of where maybe a crime occurred or something like that. So it's pretty amazing stuff.
I keep hearing a squeaky toy go off, and the dog's down there playing.
That would be our most popular. That's our most popular volunteer. Her name is Hannah.
Yeah,
and she is a therapy dog from our training manager, and no one wants to talk to anyone but Hannah.
Yeah,
because Hannah's lovable.
The squeaky toy.
Yeah.
Brent is actually online.
Yeah, I saw that. You're not supposed to read those.
Yeah.
Hi, Brent.
So I'm trying to select them very carefully because he may be trying to. And he said, I don't know
what's that in meters.
What's that in meters?
Okay,
yeah.
Oh,
he's one of those Aussie. Or no,
that would be somewhere around 150 meters if I'm doing my math right.
Is it? That's pretty amazing.
A yard is a little bit longer than a meter. Maybe I'm backwards.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. That must have been when we were referring to the.
It doesn't matter, Brent. You're in the U.S., man. Deal with it. it's yards and miles, bud.
Right. Hey, when you're here, conform.
Yeah, that's right.
You got any dirt on him? The one year he exposed you. Of course, I could be starting a war.
Yeah, you could.
Maybe we want to.
I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna publicly thank Brent, because Brent has been my right hand man, and he has picked up so much slack, and just been a huge help for me in the last 6 or 8 months. And I don't know if I'd be here without Brent right now. Yeah, I've had some personal stuff going on, and he has been able to step up and really run with it. We now have a new events committee that is overseeing and taking a lot of work off my plate. He interfaces with the hotel. He setting up contracts. He's researching other places to set up events. I'm going to give a shameful plug. Anybody listening? We have an event set up in Australia. Yeah. It's in October. I don't have the dates off the top of my head, but I think it's early October. He got all that done. He got all the contracts and all that stuff fleshed out. We identified a trusted partner. And so we're excited. We're going back to Australia with the basic class for first time in Australia since, I want to say it was 2007, 2009, somewhere back in that time frame. They were doing specialized classes in Australia. Brent was also actually responsible for putting together the CLAG. And if I got that acronym wrong, that's another genism, sorry. But he put together basically a group of law enforcement agencies in New Zealand that wanted our training. So I went to New Zealand and taught the WFE about 6 or 7 years ago. Our Cypher class was put on down there. I think there's a couple others. The mobile classes were put on down in New Zealand for a while. So we had about 3 or 4 years of going down there.
Oh, wow.
And then the whole partnership kind of broke up. So now we're hoping to get back down there in Australia. We'd like to look at Asia, somewhere in Asia. We'd even consider going back into, or not back into, but we'd like to set something up in Europe as well. So, I mean, there's the world's our oyster, as one of our former directors used to say. And as long as there's a market for what we're doing and people understand it and recognize the value that we bring, I think we have a lot of opportunity.
There's definitely a huge need. I mean, I don't know how you keep up with technology as fast as it's coming out. How do you get your training on it? How do you do that? You can't. You have to constantly take some type of training to stay up on the latest things. There's no other way around it, unless you're doing independent research and then you're publishing it and you're training someone else, essentially.
Well, yeah. I mean, we talked about technology, doubling every 7 years or so. I mean, we're on Windows 11. Yeah. I mean, when I went through this, it was Windows. It was Windows XP. 7 was, I think, on the verge of coming out in 2007, 2008. We've gone through Windows 8. We've gone through Windows 9, and then of course, we skipped 9 because we went to 10. But
that's right, because they couldn't count.
Yeah, because they were worried about the coding, the old code conflicting with the Windows 98 and stuff like that. So, but I mean, and a lot of the operating systems now are designed to work on both tablet and or desktop types. So like my Surface, it's running Windows 11, but as soon as I pull the keyboard off, it automatically switches to a tablet type interface.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's cool. And
wow.
and when you go to a tablet type interface, now you're talking about almost something similar to your cell phone.
Yeah.
It's
I'm a Mac guy,
amazing.
so
It's pretty amazing. I've got a friend that's got a Samsung tablet, and it's just like working her phone. It's amazing.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You guys got anything new coming up you can talk about? I know I'm putting you in a spot. I didn't. What's going on with the IACIS? What's coming down the road? Any plans that you can talk about now?
The Australia is the big one.
Yeah,
that's our big thing coming up. This will be our first time going back to Australia, or going back down to that region. We're really trying to get a footprint over there. We're hoping that we can get law enforcement from that region to jump in, and so that's our big event. It took us a while to get a place set up, and we're just doing research. We don't want to grow too fast, but on the other hand, we do want to grow. We want to get outside the U.S. if we can. There's been some discussion about possibly a West Coast event, but everything's fluid right now. It's all about finding the right place, and if the right hotel comes along and we can get into a place like that, it probably won't be 330 people, but I can tell you, and I don't believe I'm letting any secrets out here, but I can tell you that the board wants to see us grow. We want to see us grow our membership, and we want to see us grow our number of forensicators around the world, not just in the U.S., but around the world.
Right.
And so we've got a lot of forensicators down in New Zealand, down in Australia. We have some in Hong Kong. We're in, I don't know how many countries. I think 80 countries or something like that around the globe, all over Europe. And we've even got some that have come here from South Africa, from other parts of Africa. I think somebody mentioned an African country here. Our staff alone makes up 10 countries. Now, mind you, a majority are U.S., but we have staff from 10 countries. And then our student base makes up 22 countries that are just here at this event.
Wow.
Which is pretty impressive. Last year it was 20.
Very impressive.
Last year it was 20 countries for student, and this year it was 22.
Wow.
So 2 additional countries have popped in.
Wow. Yeah, so, I met several from other countries here, and they're just liking to come to Orlando this time of year when they're up in northern, especially northern European countries. They're like, yes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the weather's been gorgeous. We've had 80, 90 degree weather down here. It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
A little bit of rain at night to kind of cool things down every once in a while.
Yeah.
Either that or it's just sprinklers. I don't know when I walk out. I think it was Sunday we had a little bit of rain overnight.
Yeah.
And but otherwise it's just been beautiful, gorgeous weather.
Yeah, so, I mean, and you're a skip from Disney, skip from Universal, skip from SeaWorld. I mean, and it's great for like the weekends when they're not in class. Don't go because there's too much. You'll lose it if you try to go during the week. Only the weekends, then you can do it.
Go play on the weekends.
That's right.
If you get arrested, don't call me. I'm not bailing you out.
Call Brent. So, he might be there with you, though.
So. Yeah, he might. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, you got Tampa Bay is only an hour away. You got the baseball games over there. You got, I believe the Orlando Magic is now in the playoffs, so you got that.
That's right.
I know a couple people that are going to the playoff games tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
And like you said, Disney and there's so much to do here.
Yeah, I think
so nobody should be bored.
Yeah, no, I think Cleveland is actually down. Cavaliers are down.
That's right.
Playing, which I'm not interested in. I live up in Cleveland.
I was going to say, don't tell Richard that.
I know.
Richard's a big Cleveland fan.
I know he is. We were talking earlier, and he's considering going to the game.
Yeah, he unfortunately came down sick today, so hopefully he feels better.
I wonder what happened to him.
Yeah, he's not. We've had a little bit of a flu bug going around, and
just the flu bug,
or head colds. Yeah, it's not. Nobody's tested positive for COVID, to my knowledge, but I think a lot of it's the air conditioning. People come here from colder weather, and they get down to this beautiful, nice weather, and they walk into this really cold building. And I know it gave me a little bit of a stuffed head for a while. But
that's what it did to me. But yeah.
So
I'm just happy. I step outside and just smile. I was like, because we had a freeze warning up in Ohio, like my first day here. I'm like looking at my phone going, not here. It's not.
So I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
You're running video here.
Yeah.
You're not going to actually have that video live and show to the public, right? Because I got a face for radio. Just saying.
I definitely have a face for radio, so I'm with you, man. That's why I worked radio. I worked at radio for 7 years.
You're quite good at what you do, I got to say.
Okay. I'm an audio snob is what I call myself, because I got to have it sound a certain way. And
no, it's good.
Nerdy.
It's good.
Like
we love having you here. I think it's great.
It's fun.
This is a great idea to have you here.
I appreciate you guys inviting me every year. I have a lot of fun down here and broadcast. And like I said, I like hearing the stories. And this is going to be what we call the segue over to yours.
Okay.
I like we talked to Alan, we talked to Bill, we've talked to Brandon yet. And everyone has the story of where they started in investigations, and whether it's computer or whatever they did, and how they got to be where they're at.
Okay.
So what's your story?
So once upon a time, back before the wheel was invented, there was dirt. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I was a contractor before I got into law enforcement, and my dad had actually dabbled in computers. We had our first computer at home was an old Texas Instrument computer that was completely self-contained, and you plugged it into the back of the TV. It was an old Texas Instruments.
Yeah, was it the TI-99? Yep. Is that what they called it?
Yep, TI-99. And I think we may have thrown it out now because I think one of the keys broke. But that kind of always got my curiosity piqued. And that's why I would watch my dad, program in BASIC. He kind of self-taught himself basic programming. And it was pretty cool. So when I got into law enforcement, my sergeant on the road was doing a peer review problem set in the office, which back then we were doing, all of our peer review was done in using disk edit. This was before I knew anything about IACIS. And I'm watching my sergeant doing this, and I was like, dude, that is cool. That is cool. I would love to do computer forensics for this organization. That'd be neat. Well, as time went on, we had a sergeant, or we had a guy that went to detectives, and he went through the class in 2006. And then I throw my name in the hat to go in 2007, but I was like 2 or 3 down.
Okay.
And somehow or another, it worked out that I ended up being only 1 down from the guy that had been selected. And then he got promoted 30 days before he got promoted out of detectives 30 days before the class started. And they said, well, we're not going to send a sergeant down to this class, so Gene, you're it if you want to go. And I was like, hold on a minute. Are you guys setting me up for failure? Because I'm being told 33% of the people passed this test. Well, that's of all students.
Right.
So I did the best I could to mitigate it. I borrowed the books from the guy that went through it the year before. I spent 30 days reading the entire book, the whole manual.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I'm a slow reader, so that'll show you how many hours I spent reading that book.
And those aren't small. I mean, I still have mine from that
back
year.
Back then it was one manual. Now they've divided it up. But so I read the whole book, and I came in and I showed up in 2007. I was like, wow, this is amazing. But it actually really benefited me because when I got here, I kind of knew what I understood, and I knew what I didn't understand. I already had my questions kind of formulated, so I was able to pick and choose when to ask my questions and so on. And then being able to listen to the instruction, it just helped re-solidify what I'd already read and thought I understood, and go from there. So it was really nice. I went through that. Then I served at the Flagstaff Police Department from 2000. I was hired on in 2002, and I served until 2013. But I was in detectives until 2010. So I did 6 years, 6 or 7 years in detectives. And then I promoted, I went to the road, as a road sergeant, but I was still maintaining the lab. I was one of the only ones in the lab working at the time. Got a couple more people, to come down here to get certified from our agency. Our agency did not run at that time. I don't know how it is now, but at that time they didn't run a full forensic lab where you just did full forensics all the time.
Right.
I carried a full domestic violence caseload, and I was also the collision reconstruction supervisor. So I had a lot going on.
Multiple hats.
Yeah, and then ultimately I got recruited out of law enforcement into IBM, which happened to be the same year I got elected to the board.
No kidding.
And I've been on the board since 2013.
Wow, that's awesome. So you got recruited out of the PD.
Yes.
It's not like you were actively looking?
No, I was not looking. Actually,
That's
I actually got recruited in 2010. I got recruited in 2010 to go work for IBM, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. I'm not a malware guy. I enjoy. I love my job as a police officer and what I was doing, and I had some pretty big cases that I had done, which were very rewarding. When you save the life of a child, it's a wonderful feeling. Even if you don't know the child, but you know that you're taking a predator off the street, it's pretty amazing. And so I liked what I was doing. And then in 2013, I was recruited again and decided to put in the application for it. So I did, and I was really struggling because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this or not. And so I was like, okay, if they come in with this amount of money, then I'm going to be hard pressed to say no.
Right.
And so that's what ultimately happened. Scared to death. The first 6 months was a panic, because incident response is very different than digital forensics.
Right.
And it's a lot of the same techniques and stuff, but the way you apply it's very different. Until you actually get in there and do it, it can be a little nerve-wracking, especially when you're talking about clients that are paying you a lot of money to come in and do this kind of investigation. So Yeah, that's kind of my story and how I got into forensics. And I when I do my opening address as the president, I do my opening address. I take about 5 minutes, and first thing I always do is thank all the people doing CSAM type cases. We called it child exploitation back in the day, but now it's CSAM and or exploitation. I don't like the pornography word because it's not pornography. It's not. There's no consenting parties here.
Right.
And so the industry has gradually moved away from that, and I'm happy to see that.
Yeah.
But I want to thank all those folks that are doing this type of work, because it taxes the soul for the investigators that do it.
It does, especially if you have kids of your own. When I was doing most of those types of investigations, didn't have kids. Now, if I'd have to go back, I couldn't do it. I don't think I could do it.
It messed me up, and I didn't realize how badly it messed me up until I got out. And then I was like, oh wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So, but I the other thing I like to do is on opening day is look around the room and talk to them about you folks have won the lottery. I mean, when you're done with law enforcement, you don't have to quit and go home, unless you want to go fish. That's where you're at in your life.
Right.
God bless you. But
then have at it.
But you've got a skill set you've got a skill set in the training. If you've done your job right and you've studied the books and you stay up on your training, you've got a skill set that can't teach in the universities, because you're not only bringing your forensic skill set, but you're bringing your investigative background that makes you a very valuable individual to any company and any organization.
Absolutely.
And so I think they've hit the lottery when they sit down in that room. If they pursue it, if they recognize it and pursue it and apply themselves, to coin that phrase again, the world's their oyster.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of them are thinking that at that point. They're just thinking of like, how am I going to survive this next 2 weeks, right? And they're not thinking that forward advance. They're thinking of that new position maybe, and they're not thinking about, hey, maybe your retirement's in anywhere from 5 to whatever years it is. Brent's got an answer for us. I've been waiting to put it up there. But, they're not thinking about that next step in their life, because, generally as law enforcement, you can retire fairly young, depending if you take, I retired at 15 years.
I left at 11 and a half.
Still fairly young, and you can still go do something else. Yep. And this is a great foundation to have. I mean, you learn so much experience and to go and make, and I hate to say law enforcement doesn't make a lot of money, but they don't. There's a lot of money to be made in the corporate, and you don't have to see a lot of that, the CSAM stuff, the things like that you don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, I look back at some of the investigations I've done in law enforcement and what I do now, and it's just night and day different. But I don't ever want to discourage anybody or encourage people to leave law enforcement. We need people that are passionate, that have the conviction to continue doing it.
100%.
And I appreciate those that do, and really try to recognize them in here, because I've been there, I've done it, and it's not easy, and it's hard, especially those that are doing it every day, 6-8 hours a day. And I think Jim Caviezel just did the movie about the child trafficking. Yeah. And it's really interesting because I wasn't sure if I could sit through that. I went there and I watched the movie. I was by myself, and it was interesting. They show him typing the report, and he kind of starts the narrative, and the narrative talks about him watching the video and then him translating the video into his written report to describe what he's seeing. And I thought, they got this right. They really got this right.
Wow.
And it's impressive. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend you watch it.
I haven't. I saw it, and I was like, I can't watch that.
You'd be surprised.
Really?
I really thought I was not going to make it through it, but they did it. It was very, very well done. And I would encourage anybody, if they have not seen it, to go see that movie, because that is the passion that gentleman had and the conviction that he had to do what he did. I mean, he's a true hero.
That's awesome.
There's no question.
All right, now I'm going to have to watch it.
Yeah, you got to watch it. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's slipping my mind for some reason. But yeah, I was the same way. I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah.
And then I was really glad I did. Not a dry eye in the theater when that was over. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it was
That's good. I like that awareness out there, because I don't think people truly understand. They just don't. They hear that, we investigate these types of cases. And, obviously you're never going to go into the detail of what you actually see. But when someone tells their story, it makes it so much more impactful. Even though I haven't seen the movie, I'm hoping it relayed all that information.
It's very, like I said, it's very well done.
Good.
So
Well, good deal. Good deal.
So that's my story. I told you I'd repeat it to you again.
Yeah, no, actually, I learn new stuff every time. And I got a thing here from Brett here. Hold on. I'm going to make sure I put this up there. There we go. He says the BCFE training room is 26,000 square feet.
Yep, that's about right.
And then he says the football field is 57,600 square feet, or the equivalent of 1.3 acres. Okay, so he's been on Wikipedia.
Yes, he has. He's very good. He's got good Google foo.
Yeah,
he's got good.
He's been out there. So the length, I'd be curious because clearly it's not as wide, right?
Right.
But
it's a football field's 50 yards wide, I believe, right? It's 100 yards long plus the end zones, and then you're 50 yards wide, I believe.
See now we're waiting on Brett.
Brett, come on, tell us how wide a football field is.
Google faster. I forget we're 15 seconds in the future.
Yeah.
So this is a late time to get some. Yeah, I don't know how wide we can see in the room kind of now. Man, it still looks pretty wide to me.
I don't think it's 50 yards. I don't think it's 50 yards.
Yeah, it's close.
But
it's massive.
But it's big.
I'm going to get if you're not a member of Cyber Social Hub, sign up. I'll wait till all the students are cleared out. Maybe after they all leave, I'll stand at one end and just take a shot.
Actually, we can get you Zubin. Zubin's our new incoming marketing director, and he did a drone flight over it before the students came in. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
yeah. So I'll get you that link.
Okay, I'll get you that link. We'll post it up. That way people can take a
pretty
look
impressive.
at it. Yeah.
So.
No, that's very cool. Oh wait, he's at it here. Hold on, we got something else going on. There we go. 120 yards long, measured from the back of the one end zone to the back of the other end zone. And 53.3. He's very precise on this.
That must include the white painted lines.
It must, because he's including the end zones too.
Yeah.
So, Brett. We don't know how long the room is, the main training room here. How many yards do you suppose it is? That's the next question. Can you find that on Google?
I don't know if he'll be able to find that because I think they just show the square footage, the layout and the square footage on the map.
The gauntlet is thrown down, sir.
Yeah.
There's your challenge. If you can
I told you how useful Brent was, right? This is what I get all the time. He's a very useful guy.
Get all kinds of information. Yeah. Got all kinds of information. All right, one more thing on the spot for you. As you guys could probably hear, the class came out on break, and it got really loud really quick. But we did it. I mean, it wasn't that bad.
No.
It wasn't that bad. They get 10 minutes, so they're rushing to use the restroom and talk to the vendors, see the latest tech and stuff that's out there. And there's some pretty impressive stuff. But what do you think is the trend this year? And I tend to ask everyone this question, is in forensics. Where do you see the trend? And you can be wrong. This is just a flat-out guess as to the trends in digital forensics, what people should maybe keep their eye on, or see where the biggest movers are.
So that's an interesting question because we just had a evening with the experts kind of talking about this topic right there. And I don't know if it's going to be published or the video is going to be published, but I'm going to break it up into two parts.
Sure.
Because I think that it's where is forensics going and from a criminal investigations perspective versus a corporate investigations perspective.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in the corporate investigations, which we do bad leavers. We call them bad leavers, somebody that leaves an agency to go to another agency and they steal or IP information, and take it to their new place of work, or they're all consulting. They're all conspiring to move out or steal people away, all that stuff. But we also do the cybersecurity, which is the malware, network intrusion, etc. But there's also now deep fakes. The deep fakes are a big thing because in the corporate network, from embedded data inside the photographs, is this legit? Is this real? And I mean, when you see some of the technology out there that they're able to actually edit video on the fly and it looks legit, it's scary. It's really scary.
As soon as we're done, I'll show you. I got them on my phone. I'll show you.
So one of my colleagues at work, just created a sample video of how he would be able to use technology on the market to make a phone call running the background of an airplane of a airport in the background. Makes a phone call and it sounds just like his boss's voice. Calls the secretary and says, "Hey, I'm so and so, and I broke my phone. I've borrowed this gentleman's phone. I need my password reset right now. Can you please email me that password at this email address?" And it sounds just like the boss.
Yeah.
And it's actually so impressive. It's scary.
Wow.
And so I think that's one way things are going. From AI to deep fakes to all these different ways, because we know in the cybersecurity industry, you can have the best security in the world, but the human element is always the weakest link.
Always.
So they're always going to attack the weakest link, which is a human element, by social engineering. They can tell you use a 500 character password, make it all random characters, and you can do that. But guess what somebody's going to do? They're going to write it all down, and they're going to leave it on their desk right next to their computer. Kind of defeats the purpose, right? So yeah, it defeats the purpose. But from a criminal investigations perspective, I think there's going to be some of that as well, because you're going to see criminals getting smarter. They're going to start understanding more about it. And we've seen that over the years anyway.
Yeah.
But encryption is going to be a challenge. How do we get through encryption? I'm trying to think of some other ways. I know your CSAM stuff is going to always be there. But they do fraud. Those are fraud investigators that are investigating fraudulent emails and stuff like that. I think you're going to see the future go that way. And of course, mobile phones is seeing how mobile phone investigations has grown up since I was a detective back in 2010, 2011. It's mind blowing. Yeah, it's mind blowing.
No, absolutely. I think we were talking to some of the vendors here about. You had mentioned the CSAM with how that's. It's always been a component, but now they're using AI to generate it. So that's the challenge I think law enforcement's going to come up with. It's like, how do you make it illegal? There's no victim per se.
Well, that's true. And I think that, sorry, I'm cutting
No,
off.
go ahead, please. No, go ahead.
You actually, that's the deep fake is a big thing, because in my state in Arizona, if you can prove it's not actually a child, it's not criminal.
Right.
And so, cartoons or anything like that is considered not criminal. And so if you can deep fake it and you can prove that it's a deep fake on the law enforcement side, or that it's not a deep fake, or at least in my experience in law enforcement, you have to chase every possible red herring so you can testify what it was not. And so, it's like a homicide investigation. Every lead has to be followed up on, because otherwise they're going to get up and say, well, you didn't follow up on that lead. That could be your killer. And it's the same thing here. They can say, well, malware did it. Did you investigate that? Nope. I already checked the computer for malware. There's no malware on the computer. Or I did, and I figured out what that malware does, what it's designed to do, what kind of access, so on and so forth. So now the big question that's going to come up is, how do you know those images aren't fake? Is there technology out there now that can fake those images? Yeah, there are. So, you feed it the right information, you feed AI the right information, and it can generate fake stuff. And that's the scary thing to me. It is. I don't know what the answer is. I wish I did, but you're right. I think the law enforcement are going to have to tackle that at some point.
Yeah, and that's just horrible to have to think that there's people out there that do that stuff. But you and I both know there are. Yeah, it's
unfortunate.
Crazy. Yeah, it is. I don't want to leave on this nasty note. We gotta
have something a little bit better, right? What Brent come back with?
Oh,
that was the last one.
Was that the last one?
That was the last one. All right.
Oh, he's yet to come up with the.
Yeah, his Google foo ain't that good.
He's going to go out and get one of those like they use in accident investigations. He's going to be wheeling. You're going to see him walking down the hallway with the wheel. to find it. You're looking for markers now.
Yeah,
You're trying to judge.
So you have it.
Distance.
Well, the contractor in me is going to come out.
Oh, there you go. So you're looking at the ceiling tiles.
I'm looking at the expansion joints in the wall there, and those are 50 feet apart. And just in this main lobby area, you have 100 feet.
Okay.
So, and then you're probably another 8 or 9 feet to the edge.
Yeah, and then you got
the ceiling tiles are 2 foot square, so you got 2, 4, 6, 8. How far do we want to go? And me being a drywall contractor, I see every flaw in the walls anyway. So,
yeah, I know, right? I can see it from here too, but I'm not an amateur.
Yeah.
I screw up my own home.
See that one, but
right there.
I think it looks like an old leak or something that's caused it to crack.
It does, yeah.
So, but it's good stuff. I appreciate you having me on. Hopefully, didn't bore everybody. But it's amazing having you down here. I do appreciate it. I'd love to see some of the interviews of some of the students if you can pull them in.
Oh, heck yeah! If they're willing to, let's do it. We're here one more day. Monday is our last day, and I'll try to snatch some in there. It's hard though because they got like 10 minutes.
That's true. That's true.
You got to be back in the door. I don't want to miss anything because I know how crucial it is.
The other option is wait until they come out here at the end of the day. And catch them if you don't have to do an hour long. They're We just want to hear their quotes.
Yeah.
We're being selfish. We don't hear the good stuff.
We can do it.
Anything negative? Nah. We need it.
I don't think you're going to hear any.
Write it on the form and mail it to me. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully there's no bad remarks. I know we always get complaints about the room being too cold or so on, but there's not much we can do about it because as soon as you turn the air conditioning down, then it gets too hot real quick because there's a lot of people in that room.
A lot of machines running in that.
Yes.
Laptops are like
that's really hard to accommodate, and it takes hours for the heat to come down, or it takes hours for the room to cool down, and then when it gets hot again, then you got to cool it back down, so it becomes a big cyclic issue. So
big space.
So it is a big space.
Big space.
Well, it's 2,600,000 square feet.
That's right. So, that's just the floor space. That doesn't include the vertical.
That's right. The verticals.
See, now we're going to add more challenges in.
Yep. I can tell you right now, the vertical is going to be over 12 feet.
It's big room.
Yeah, it's big.
It's a big room. If you can fly drones in there, the drone flyover, it's a big room.
I will get you that link. Don't let me forget.
Awesome. No,
it's a pretty cool link.
Zubin has. I'll track him down too.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll track him down.
Yeah.
Well, Gene, thank you as always. It's
my pleasure.
Great pleasure to have you on. Thanks again for inviting us down. We enjoy it every year. It's great stuff.
Open invitation.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We're going to be going live maybe yet again today. It's only 4 o'clock. We might have another time, but for sure on Monday. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do. And then there you're going to find a little bell somewhere on the YouTube side. You can hit that notification every time we go live here from IACIS. You'll get notified in your browser. Don't worry. It's not all disturbing. It does no alarms go off or anything like that. You get notified when you get live. That way you can see what's going on and some of the latest trends that are happening. And again, until next time, we'll see you guys later. Gene, again, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.